Oh, here we go. I'm starting to work on the rust, and this is just like the other door. That's the heavy steel brace, you know, part of what the hinges bolt to. It's that panel. This door is, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe 6 panels. So I'm going to cut this out so I can clean all this, because you can see it's all packed down in there. That's why these rotted out here, because dirt and stuff would collect between the sheet metal and the heavy steel brace, and it would hold moisture and just rot the door out, and undercoating stuff wouldn't get in there. That's why I oil things. Oil will penetrate down in. But I'm going to clean it all out, and I cleaned up the rest of the door, see if there's any filler issues. As the other door was rotted out over here, this door is perfect over here. So this one, this is the major rust spot, and the creases are the only real work on the whole door. That's what I used to clean the surface off. It's like a stripper thing. Looks pretty darn good. So I'm gonna get my little cut off wheel and Dremel and cut that out and make a new piece, and we'll get it welded on. Now you can kind of see this is a heavy steel. There was a spot weld there and a spot weld there, so I'll just grind those little pieces off, but the new piece will bend around that. And this is pretty heavy steel. I'll clean that up with the angle grinder before I weld a new piece on, and easy repair. The next step in repairing this hole is making a template. And the original one for the other door was a fair amount higher and bigger, and I thought, why take the extra out when it's all good in there? So I just been fitting this to here. That fits pretty good, and then I'll just trace the underside of the door on here, and then I can bend the cardboard and cut, you know, to simulate the fold of the sheet metal. So then that's this edge here, but you can see it goes a little bit beyond, and then obviously it folds over under this side. So I'll make this, you know, I'll just leave it the length it is now, and then once I get it all folded and fit, then I can mark these even with where the piece is underneath the door here, and then trim them, and then I can trace this, and I'll probably have to cut a little bit out of there too, maybe, you know, something like that, maybe, we'll see. And because there's always like if this was the other side of the door, this sheet metal comes up there and this one comes up there, so there's always seems like there's a little opening in the corner. And so if there is a little, sometimes there's not when I do these, but if there is, you know, it's no big deal. But then once I get the sheet metal piece made, I can clean this up. I just took a file and roughly cleaned it off, you know, just so I could get this right flush on there. And it's got a little bit of a curve to it, but you know, this will give me the idea what I need to cut out, where I need to put the bends in it once I make this piece totally fit there like I'd want the sheet metal to fit. Then I can trace it on the sheet metal and make it, and then get it welded on here. And then I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with these dents in there. I tried fooling with them a little bit. This is the next day, and I tried fooling with them a little bit yesterday. And the problem is that sound deadening, or that stuff they spray inside the door that's really thick, makes it really difficult to work. And I don't have the stuff you can, you know, weld a little wire on there and to pull the, while you tap, you know, try and straighten it. So I'm just going to probably, and this is actually right up in just about into this part of the door right here, so I can't get my body hammer to these. Those I'm going to have to use a little filler on. And there's a dent, I haven't even fooled with that one. Anyway, it's up over and further in the door. I don't remember, there was a little, you can see it when the light's on it just right, but, and it's dirty now too, but there is a little dent somewhere up in there, and we'll get that fixed too. Maybe it wasn't that far. It's right there. So there's that dent there. And well, that's where the stuff's really thick there, but I might, I don't know, it's just not that big of an area. You know, the filler might be look like that on it, but you know, it'll be thinner than paint out here. And I don't know if I want to stick a bunch of filler in it, so I am going to try and pound them out a bit. There we go, that's pretty much all fit. You know, I just kind of sit there and play around with it until, you know, I get it to where I like it. And then, you know, you end up trimming, you end up with a pile of trimmings. And then the underneath, you know, I'll show you how that fits too. This just kind of goes over, and then these will fold over. This has a little more rounded curve. I don't know if you can see that or not the way it is, but that'll fold over the same. And I got a little crack in the sheet metal. I got to pull that little plastic, that's for the weather strip, but there's a little crack there, and I'll grind this all up and clean it up. I beat it with the hammer a little bit, just a regular ball peen hammer flat end, and it seems pretty good. So that's a seam sealer there that I was just flicking out. So I'll weld that crack when I weld that patch on. Well, I fussed around with it with a couple files and got it to fit. There's a little bit of a gap from there to there, but I can fill that in with weld. That's no big deal. So what I'm going to do is hold this where I want it, exactly where it fits, right there. And then I'm going to trace the underside where the heavy steel is, and then I know where the distance in addition to where I need to make the bend. So I just mark it out on there, and then this one, you can see that little gap sticking out, so this one will be bent out further, and this is a wide bend. It's not a narrow, you know, tight bend, so I'll set my bender up to give it a little wider bend. That's a pretty good fit. Kind of see what the other side, I got to clean this up. I'm going to clean this piece up with some acid and stuff and paint it, prime it, zinc chromate and prime it, and then I'll put this piece back on, and then I'll weld all this on, then hammer these in here. And this was tacked, well, it was spot welded there and there, so two spot welds I had to cut with the chisel, hammer and chisel off. So I'll drill a little tiny hole here and here, whoops, there and there, and then I can just run a little spot weld in there, tap the rust down, and the front bottom corner of the door will be repaired. Alright, I got that all fit on, ready to weld. I got to drill a little hole in each end there. I'll do that here in a minute. And get that ground out. I can't work outside, so I got to stack some cardboard or something between the car and where I'm working so I don't bugger it up. It's another cool rainy day again. And it's not, at least it's not cold. It is, there's the temperature, about 66. It's nice out, but it's just rainy, so I can't, you know, just keep the door down. And I can't, with the MIG welder, the shielding gas will blow away if I weld outside. You know, I don't want to have a spattered weld, so I'd weld it inside with the door down no matter what. Before I start welding, I didn't want to damage the windows, so I rolled the window up, and I'll just throw some cardboard over it there, and then that way sparks won't melt in the glass from when I'm welding there. You know, if they go through the door, you know, in between where the joint is, it'll wreck the glass. So that's the way I'm protecting the glass, just like closing the window, so to speak, and covering it up. And I covered up the back of the car too, as you can see. There it is, all welded on this side, and might grind the weld first and then flip the door over and clean up and weld up the other side and weld up that. There's a little bit of repair I need to do to the inner sheet metal skin. I'll show you when I get the door turned over to work on the other side. I ground the weld out, and I'm going to flip it over. It just warped in a little bit right here. This all there's a little in right there, a little in right there. The rest of it feels pretty good, but you know, I'll get in the door with the something, see if I can push some of this out. When I turn it over, it'll be easier to get something in there, and then I'll probably have to finish it with a little filler. That's all pretty much all finished up. Probably a little filler here and a little filler there, maybe a little dab there, and a little on this side. But I'm gonna fix this now. This was the piece that came out of here. And so I'm going to cut that out, weld it up, and then call it a day. I'll go in and edit up a video for you. You can see the bottom of the door is going to need a little bit of sanding and cleaning. But, you know, overall, these are spot welds. And there is some rust pits, but it's all pretty good shape. I think I can clean all that up really good and neutralize, put that acid on it. And there's one spot I got to kind of beat out here and make sure there's nothing in behind there. Take my dolly and a hammer and just tap it lightly to knock the loose rust out, and then see if I need to repair anything there. But this is really the extent of the rust. You can see the factory primer and the paint, so I suspect this really rusted because the paint and the primer I ground it away here, but really this was all just primer. There was no paint here. And like I say, this is heavy steel, this piece. This is a sheet metal skin welded to it. There's a lot of different pieces to this door. It's not, you know, it's, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 pieces all total, maybe more, but I'm going to fix this now. So another reason I think these rust out is just sheet metal layered over this heavy steel, and there was no paint or anything in between. I'm going to clean all this up, and then I'm just going to run a bead of weld around here, and then I'll weld this in so I can re-drill a little tiny hole for the weather strip. So that's kind of how that's going to get fixed. This, you know, this is the bottom inside front of the door. You don't even see this really when the door is open, but I'm going to make it so you can't tell it, you know, it's been repaired. There's one other spot right here I didn't like the looks of it on the bottom of the door when I was cleaning this channel out. It was kind of bulged up, so I pried it open, cleaned everything out. Everything's solid. The outer skin's solid. The inner, this is one skin, this is the other skin, and the outer skin that's folded over. So I'm going to cut that off and weld it up. And I think that'll all be good. That looks like then this door will be repaired. I welded that in, and a little lower in here because I didn't weld sheet metal, and I just welded the sheet metal to the heavy steel there. And I'll just put a little filler in there, and there's a few little spots there, a couple little pits. So I'm going to put some acid on it, and in a couple spots some metal prep stuff that I have, the proper stuff for it, and I think I'm going to do the whole bottom of the door. Let it sit overnight. It says to let it dry on and sit overnight, and then I'll clean it up tomorrow. I'll finish this up and start working on bumping out the dents, stripping the paint off, and then I can do the body. I'm not going to put any body filler or anything on it until, you know, all the paint's off. So the paint stripper will soften body filler, so I don't want any stripper on it after fillers on it. So tomorrow we'll get that finished up and work on the dents. I want to work on the dents before I take the paint off, and then I'll strip it and do whatever filler we need to do on the door. So that's it for this video. Now you can kind of see how I covered the car up a little bit there, and I put the door up to grind so the sparks would go outside. You know, it's raining, so I can't take the stuff outside to grind. But anyway, I'm going to call it a day. If you liked the video, definitely hit the like button. If you want to see this neat old Galaxy finished up, subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching.